API tests are much faster and simpler, both in creation and execution, comparing to real end-to-end.
What is a minor change? Is there anything like a minor change?
In testing of minor changes, it's not about the change itself. It's about side effects.
Does it really make sense to test all of those minor SAP integration or API changes?
So now the flexibility is much better with this composable mode, but the complexity is increasing.
Hello, my name is Michał Krawczyk and welcome to another episode of Navigating SAP API Testing, the show where we try to discuss how and why SAP organizations should be testing SAP integrations, which are the backbones of digital transformations. On one of our latest sessions, we got a very intriguing question from one of the guests. Should we be testing even the minor changes to SAP APIs? And together with Michał Kowalczewski, we will try to answer this question today, digging a little bit more into this. So, Michał, as you've been to the show, I think we can skip the introduction. Maybe you can tell us a little bit more what happens after a big SAP program finishes. So let's say we're going through the S4HANA program. We've tested everything. We went live. What is happening immediately after we go live?
I believe that this is high time to celebrate, right?
Yeah, I would. That's a great maybe thing to do after the program finishes. But in terms of organizations, what is it that we do after the program finishes? All of the transports are already on the production. Hopefully everything is working. The hypercare, or maybe we can talk about the hypercare. The hypercare does not involve us that much. What happens then?
Yeah, well, right. So go live doesn't mean that this is end of changes. Yeah,
we expected that.
And actually, I believe that since this time, we can start talking about these minor changes. There would be a lot of them, yeah? But I believe that we should also focus on the changes in SAP department in terms of organization. That usually after go live, this is the time that the project team is slowly dissolved and everything what is related to SAP. So after go live maintenance and support, this is passed to teams that are called business as usual, BAU, right? And this is a very sensitive moment for the overall success of SAP implementation. You need to ensure proper knowledge transfer and you need to pass responsibility to this new organization cell. And of course, this is very difficult as most of the people there are new to the project.
Okay, why? Let's come back a little bit more to this business as usual, because maybe we will be able to answer the question that we got from one of our listeners in that. Can you define what is the difference between business as usual and running a big program like an S4HANA program maybe?
Yeah, so there are many differences on different levels. Yeah, first of all, for example, the budget perspective. There is a separate budget for project, and in terms of business as usual, this is a continuous process. So, and this is related with maintenance and support. So it would be financed in different way, right? And if we look on the importance or the role from business perspective, this is a business continuation for the whole organization. So this is really significant role.
And if we think about, let's go back maybe to this question one more time. So the project, the big S4HANA transformation ends. We enter the hypercare. Is that some sort of is that framing the business as usual phase, or was the business as usual phase anyway present? Because some organizations might be implementing SAP for the first time, but some of our organizations that might be just an S4HANA program might just be one of the programs that they have. Where was the business as usual at that time?
Exactly. So, like you mentioned, depending on the flavor of the program project, yes, if this is greenfield, many times we have seen that business as usual is created afterwards, after go live. Yeah? In any other cases, it depends. Yes, you have large organizations who are working with SAP for multiple years, but
Or
anyway,
decades.
yeah, for decades. Even if there is a big S4HANA program, they cannot be involved or involved too much because they have a lot of daily activities which are related with existing SAP installations. So this question, I believe that we cannot give you a single answer, but in most cases, business as usual teams are not very involved in the project.
Okay, but does that mean, maybe trying to come back to the question that we got from the listener, does that mean that the business as usual teams or business as usual parts of the team, because I'm assuming maybe they are also involved in those big transformation programs, are they doing only small minor changes?
Yes and no. Yeah. So again, this depends on the organization, but usually we are saying that business as usual teams are focusing on those minor changes, the one that can be also covered from the maintenance budget. Otherwise, if the change is bigger, it is usually based on creating a new budgeting request and then assigning a project team, also very often with external partners, who is going to help in the delivery of this bigger change.
Like a request for change,
yes,
or something
like request
this.
of change.
Okay. But I'll stick to the question still, because I think it's very important to also say, to also try to understand what is a big or what is a small. How do we define the size of the change? Is the size related to the lines of coding? Is the size of the change related to the number of approvals that need to go to move this change? Is it related to maybe the dependencies that it has? What is a minor change? Is there anything like a minor change?
Again, multiple levels, yes. And maybe to give you a very straight answer, because the discussion today is also about testing. In terms of testing, actually, for me, it doesn't make difference if this is a minor or bigger change.
Okay, and why is that?
Why is that? Because you need to ensure this business continuity. And by that, wisely, it would be always better to test everything.
Okay, and test everything in terms of the APIs, of the integrations between SAP systems and either non-SAP systems or other systems or maybe business partners. What does it mean to test? What does that mean to test everything? What is it that we need to test? Right? Is it, and maybe if you could tell to our viewers, if we would be making a change to the UI screen, is it the same level of testing that we need to do as if we would be doing a change in the interface or a group of interfaces?
Different, yeah. But maybe I will come back to your first part of the question: how we are defining minor and any other changes. Yes. So these levels are multiple. The dependencies, we already mentioned that. Yes. The type of the change, if this is a local change for particular site or global change for the whole business or all lines of business. If this is a change that is related from technical standpoint to one component or multiple components. If this is the change that is related to UI or API. UI changes are rather easier from the impact perspective, yes, as you exactly know what you are doing. When you are working with APIs, you are never sure what is the impact.
Why is that?
Why is that? Because UI usually is used in one single component, the one that you are modifying. With APIs, you would like to do everything in the reusability mode. So you are rather would like to centralize everything and then reuse. But this has higher cost in terms of the testing, that you need to ensure that all the affected processes that you even might be not aware which one are working properly after making this change.
Okay, but so if I understand you correctly, you said that possibly we can have some minor changes to APIs, but there needs to be a set of variables. One of them being maybe it needs to be a local change. Maybe it needs to what were the other ones?
We are also thinking about dependencies. If this is one component or multiple, yes, because
multiple
if you have
components.
APIs, you need to also to change endpoints.
Okay, but let me maybe challenge you a little bit. With API testing, do we actually have local integrations, local APIs that do not involve a lot of dependencies? Can we actually have anything like this in the organizations? Is this a common thing, or it's more when we're talking about large SAP customers? Are we always talking more maybe about global changes, which never fall in this minor API change category?
Yeah, of course, yes, but from my practice, when I'm usually working with enterprise customers, they are centralizing everything. Okay. This basically gives you a lower cost of ownership to centralize. This definitely makes sense. But like I said, in the aspect of testing, this is a little bit more expensive and needs to be planned more carefully with use of also available tools to speed up this process, if possible.
Okay, so maybe let's come back again to this topic. So you've mentioned that when companies are not having a central system, maybe they have multiple ERP systems per each warehouse, per each country, maybe region, there is a possibility that we might have some local integrations which can be treated as minor changes, right? So they can be maybe controlled. If we're talking about more central systems, then it's very difficult, if I understand you correctly, to talk about minor changes, because anyway, even if we write, two lines of code, this can actually affect hundreds of systems.
Yes.
Right? Is that correct?
Yes, this is my understanding. Yes, and also in SAP world, even if we are talking about a single line of code changes. This is not something that you are going to deploy in 5 minutes.
Okay, why is that?
Yeah, due to the governance process, due to approval levels, due to risk that actually we can cause with unplanned or improper modification of systems.
Okay, so if I get this right, and please correct me if I'm wrong, there are some changes in the SAP, and maybe you can tell me which ones are those, even to the SAP APIs, that can go live within a single day. Can we have something like this, like a crucial something, I don't know, something broke, maybe there's a patch. Can we have changes that will go in the same day to the production? Is this even possible?
Yeah, I believe depending on the urgency. If your business is blocked due to technical reason related with SAP integration, then definitely you are going to fix it in minutes, yeah. But this is firefighting way of working, and
So this is more like a not usual firefighting way of working. But could we even call this a minor change if there's such a huge risk?
No, this is not a minor change. I believe that this is a cause of a wrong change.
Okay. So some action, defects, we didn't do something in the past, or maybe a new patch was found because of some sort of a vulnerability, security, or something like this.
But even this is very rarely few minutes, few hours, or even few days, right?
Okay.
Everything should be planned in advance.
Okay. So on one hand, we've got those really, really urgent minor changes, or I'm not sure if we can still call them minor if they are so important, and maybe they were raised by business. Hey, you need to do it today because we cannot sell. Maybe we cannot ship, right? So
I would never call such change a minor change, right?
Okay. So maybe that is the partially the answer to the question that our viewer gave us. On the other hand, we've got those one-line changes, maybe. And you said, but those that are maybe the business is asking you to implement a small change, maybe a small change from their understanding, but actually you said that this change, it cannot go to the production very quickly.
Yeah, let me try to use one example to think about it. Yes, you said about these small changes, like a line of change, of source code change. So let's imagine that we need to drill one single hole in airplane wing.
Okay.
Right? What do you need to do? You just need to take a drill and make it 5 minutes?
Yeah, 5 minutes and we're done.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Yeah. But in order to do it properly, you need to study the airplane specification, documentation, wiring, and so on, just to make sure that you will not make any side effects by making this hole. And I believe that this is very similar to enterprise software. And maybe in a minute, we will also talk a little bit about on-premise and cloud, where basically this software is great, but it's never working in enterprise in isolation. This is always a part of combined business processes that are executing on multiple software systems.
Okay, so you've mentioned the preparation time, even to do a minor change, may actually be exactly the same as if we would be doing a very big change.
Yeah, definitely it will be shorter, but this is not something that you can bypass.
Okay.
Saying that this is a 5 minutes to drill this hole, right?
Okay. Even though we can write the code in 5 minutes, we have to understand what are the dependencies. We're talking about APIs. We're talking about integrations. We don't know how many systems may be affected by this, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so the preparation needs to be done. The change is very quick. What about the testing piece? Can we also do the testing piece quickly, or do we again need to think about what are the dependencies, and actually this makes it the same as with any other big change?
No. And we are talking about, in context of business as usual, right?
Yes.
Yeah. So and maybe let's come back to the point that it's very difficult to perform such testing when we are speaking about APIs.
Okay, in business as usual phase.
Yes,
why
in business
would
as usual. As these are small changes like we define them, but very rarely it's possible to involve business in such testing. So this is always a complexity to plan it, to find interested business resources, so who will be able to dedicate their time to help in testing this minor change.
Okay, so we need to prepare a lot. Then the change might be really small, but then the testing still needs to be done. We need to arrange the people who will be testing that. And then you've also mentioned the approvals. So someone, let's say the functional consultants or the business consultants will do the testing, but then in SAP world, I guess someone always needs to mark the transport for approval, or maybe mark the change for approval. Only then it can be moved.
Yeah, you need to sign it off, yes, as the consequences of such change might be very important from the business understanding.
Okay. So if I get this right, you're trying to say that even though we would call it a minor change because it does not involve a lot of coding, the preparation phase and the testing phase may actually be either the same or maybe even longer in terms of the testing phase, because we need to arrange the functional consultants.
So longer in terms of time.
Okay.
Needed
than
for
the
that,
normal
yes.
project even.
Yes,
Because
as in
everyone is
normal
available.
project, you have dedicated people who are supporting you.
Okay.
In business as usual, you need to look for them.
Yeah. So I'm just wondering, why do we even call those small defects or minor changes if it's like if the span of this change, it's usually not 1 day, maybe probably not even 1 week, right?
Yeah, and also this is about deployment windows. That in the traditional on-premise world, you deploy once per month, once per quarter.
Okay.
In cloud is a little bit different, and maybe this.
And can you tell us the difference, how you perceive those changes in the cloud world compared to the on-prem world, to the APIs, to the integration
to
specifically?
the APIs? Yes. So there are differences, and we said that BAU is responsible for business continuity. And also with the cloud software, the deployment phases and the changes that are provided, they are provided in the continuous way. So this would be even be weekly, for example.
Okay.
And earlier in on-premise world, when you needed to do an upgrade or technical migration to new system version, you needed to rise a project. This was separated from business as usual. You had your project group, so it means and project schedule and plan. And in this plan, you had a official testing cycle. Right? So like you mentioned, the business resources were available. And now in cloud, if this is bi-weekly, it would be not possible to organize it. Yes. You also stopped to be in charge of the schedule.
Okay.
This is coming from your software vendors and coming to the point that we are using multiple software components to run our business processes, then we can say that this is even not bi-weekly but daily. So always some of the components might be updated. There are no official test cycles, no people involved, and you need to manage. Of course, the software is tested very carefully by the vendors, but in isolation, not in the configuration that is running at your organization, where you are integrating it within APIs with other software components. You need to make sure that those changes, they are not affecting your APIs and not affecting business processes. And if we are looking for remedy definitely would be automation.
Okay, so if I understand you correctly, you're saying that in the on-premise world, even though we would be making a single small change, this change can actually, if I get this right, this change can be actually bundled with many other changes, because there is a special window and there's a special time in the year, maybe I don't know, once a month or maybe once every 3 months. And all of the changes will have to go live, will have to be pushed to the production on a specific day, which means that actually, if we combine, let's say, 20 small changes together, that is actually making a big impact. So actually, these are not small changes. This is a big change, which is made of separate components. Do I understand it correctly?
Small changes incorporated into a bigger basket.
Yeah.
And before such deployment, you have regression testing cycle.
Yeah.
And actually, for business as usual, this is the only opportunity to involve business resources that will help you in the execution of these tests.
Okay, so if I get this right, the BAU does not necessarily handle the business as usual. Phase does not necessarily handle small things, because if we have an SAP organization that has, for example, hundreds or thousands of integrations and even other changes, those can be bundled in a single run that has to go to the production, which actually is maybe as big as a normal project in some other organizations, right? Is that a right assumption?
This might be true, yeah. Depending on the scale of the business, definitely those deployment windows might contain
hundreds of changes.
Okay.
And can we have dependencies between all of them?
Of course, and those changes are not only on APIs. They are not only on integration. These are changes of on the customizing, on the coding, everything what is related with changes that are happening in SAP.
Okay, so small changes can be bundled on the on-prem world. And if you could tell a little bit more about to our viewers or listeners, in the cloud world, does that mean that the cycle is a little bit more quick, or is it only not controlled by the SAP organizations, because the changes are also being controlled by the vendor who's pushing the changes anyway, like every month or maybe bi-weekly?
Yeah, I don't know what you think about it, but for me this is a great relief. As earlier when I told you that you needed to formulate project teams to run upgrades, technical transformations, now actually you have it almost for free. This is coming from software vendor on this bi-weekly basis, yeah. But there is some side cost of it,
and
this
is that?
This cost is not having ability to run this monthly or quarterly regression testing. Actually, it doesn't make sense because you never know when the changes are happening.
So what you're trying to say is that in the cloud world, for those small changes, probably they can go to the production more quickly because anyway the vendors of the cloud software are pushing changes. So we cannot develop something this month, then get a change from the vendor and only deploy it 2 months later because we're already working on a new software, right?
Yes.
So the benefit is that
The benefit
we
is
should be able to do it
time
more
to market.
Okay, so faster innovation because of those changes or faster fixes maybe.
Yes.
But the downside is that the ways of working needs to be redefined. So we're like working constantly with those small changes and they need to be moved much more quickly.
Yeah. Actually, you need to find a way how to move them continuously to production without creating a risk or affecting your business. And again, if we need to look for answers, the answer will be test automation, right?
Okay, and if you could tell maybe our viewers a little bit more, so how does test automation or this maybe the standard end-to-end test automation, how does this apply to testing of the integrations, to testing those minor changes? But how does this correlate with each other? What do we need to change? What is different?
Yeah, right. Like you said, most of the companies are starting with end-to-end testing.
And can you define the end-to-end? How do you define end-to-end testing? If for our viewers that are maybe not familiar with end-to-end automated testing, because I guess this is what we're talking about.
Yes. Well, end-to-end automated testing for me, this would be the tests that are happening on the UI layer of all the systems that are formulating a business process.
Okay.
Yeah, and of course this is a great approach, but it's costful, and the granularity of coverage might not be enough because you have hundreds or thousands of business variances of those processes.
Of specific business processes.
Yes, and if you talk about end-to-end, this is actually multiplication. You need to multiply all the variances on your systems to cover the full business process testing.
Okay, so if I understand it correctly, you're saying that end-to-end testing is great, but if we're doing minor changes, we may not be able to catch the effect that this change will have on the system because of the granularity.
Yes.
I mean, with end-to-end test automation, we probably have 1 or 2, maybe 3 variants of different business processes. But if we're doing minor changes, we may need to do it with what? With hundreds?
Yeah, as minor change from its definition, it should affect a single business variant.
Okay, a single business variant.
So we are having 100 business variants, and we are changing
one of them?
One of them or 2 of them.
Okay.
So then, if you said that you have 3 test cases for 3 variants of 100, there is a chance that you will miss the one that you changed.
Okay, so if I get again right, what you're trying to say is that in the old world where we were talking about less integrated system, maybe less composable SAP systems, less composable ERP systems, we would have less variants of different transactions coming from the non-SAP world, maybe legacy applications, maybe EDI partners. If we're talking about the more composable applications with hundreds, thousands of systems for the SAP customers, for each of those interfaces, we may have 50, 100 variants. So the old way of working in moving this, especially to the cloud world in this more continuous way, we may not be able to cover those even small changes.
Yes. So now the flexibility is much better with this composable world, but the complexity is increasing.
Okay.
Yes, and I'm not sure if this is not about not covering all the variants just because of the nature of these end-to-end tests. It's basically the fact that API tests are much faster and simpler, both in creation and execution, comparing to real end-to-end. that by that you can increase the number of variants.
Okay, and why would that be? Why would that be faster to test, let's say, 50 variants of a single, let's say, of a sales order, incoming sales order, than 50 variants of running this transaction with your EDI partner, with your internal, maybe non-SAP warehouse, together with your SAP S/4HANA system?
I cannot speak about all solutions that are on the market, but looking on our one at Int4, the integration in the enterprises is built based on integration platforms, right? And those integration platforms, for different purposes, they are storing the historical data that was exchanged. And within API test automation at Int4, you can grab all those historical data that are containing your 100 variants of business process and almost automatically convert them into test cases. So basically by that, it's a huge difference comparing to recording all these steps manually on the screen level. If this is integrated process, then it means at least on 2 systems. Yeah? So by that, we can dramatically increase the coverage of testing using such approach.
Okay, so again, coming back to the question that we had, does it really make sense to test all of the minor SAP integration or API changes? I think we would not be discussing that much the sense of testing in general, right? Because what you said is that even the minor change, we may not be able to catch this if we're just doing a little bit of testing, and it may actually influence the whole business process or maybe many other dependent systems. But we've also discussed that just by saying that there are some minor changes or small changes may not always be the truth, because they will be bundled in the on-prem systems with many other. When the on-prem world, they need to get a lot more faster. So that means they can actually affect, even though we're saying it's a minor change, we may actually be affecting many other things because we will not be able to catch this.
Yes, and in my opinion, this is a clue that in testing of minor changes, it's not about the change itself. It's about side effects. That would be very difficult to recognize. And even you might face situation that you will recognize that something is wrong after 2-3 months. That your, for example, financial accounting documents are posted slightly incorrectly.
That would be an issue.
You mean
that would be an issue.
You have a quarter close and you discover that your books are incorrect. This is a lot of manual rework, right? And the minor change itself, if you did it for one single variant of business process, and this would not work correctly, not as per design, then yeah, it happens. Yes, basically, the scale would be much smaller, and usually somebody who was interested in making this change will recognize it quite quickly. Yeah, but those side effects, this might be a real disaster, and for that, I believe that we need to ensure that the whole solution will work by running deep regression testing even after minor changes.
Okay. So hopefully we've managed to take this question. Hopefully it would also provide some more insights into how to treat those minor integration changes or minor API changes, whether we're doing that on the integration platform or whether we're thinking just about the interface on your SAP ERP components. So thank you so much, Michał, for helping to answer this question from our viewer. Our request is always the same. If you would have any other question that you would like us to cover in more details in one of the next sessions of Navigating SAP API Testing, please do let us know. If you would like to find out more about SAP API testing, we have a whole open SAP training on the service virtualization, which covers those topics. There's also an SAP Press book called SAP API Testing, Strategy and Execution, where you can learn more about different strategies for testing your SAP APIs, all sort of starting from big programs like S/4HANA or integration platform migrations, up to those small meaning maybe also very, very much dependent on some other applications, but small in terms of writing the code changes. And I would also like to invite you to our new episodes that we will be recording, that we will also be recording soon. Please join our sessions and in the next, we would like to welcome you also in the next episode of Navigating SAP API Testing. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.